front and just make your way to the seats at the front. We are aware that there's a bit of a traffic situation this morning coming into the city. So we're expecting more delegates to kind of come in and filter in during this first session. But I don't want to keep those of you who were here on time much longer. And our dignitaries are here to begin our program. So we would like to kick off. So if I can just ask everybody, particularly those of you who are sitting past the center camera, the gentleman that I am standing, okay, I'm quite short, here I am, the gentleman I'm standing in front of. If I can please just ask everybody to move a little bit closer to the front, please, I'd greatly appreciate that. And then once everybody takes their seat, we will have the ICC do a safety briefing for us. And then with that, we will kick off our program. Ladies and gentlemen, just if you can still please move in front of my cameraman. To those of you who are behind him, please, if I can just ask you still to keep moving a little bit closer to us, I would really, really appreciate that. All right. If the representative from the ICC then can please take us through the safety briefing, and then we will kick off our program.
Welcome to the Durban ICC, where the world meets Africa. As a leading world-class events facility, we make your safety our #1 priority. Please give us your attention for a few minutes to take you through some important health and safety information. As the Durban ICC is a public space, please remember to keep your personal belongings safe and with you at all times. We have many bathrooms for you to use around the venue. They are clearly marked in the foyer and concourse areas. The Durban ICC is a smoke-free building, but we do have clearly marked smoking zones outside the main entrance and in the courtyards opposite the concourse. Please make use of these areas and the ashtrays provided when you smoke. In the event of a medical emergency, please dial the emergency number 031 360 1111 for assistance. The Durban ICC has developed a very simple emergency evacuation plan that everyone must be familiar with. Our staff are specially trained and will be there to assist you in following this plan. In the event of an evacuation, an announcement will be made to leave the venue. Please remain calm and walk swiftly to the nearest emergency exit in the concourse area. These exit doors are clearly marked. Security guards and the marshals will also help direct you out of the building. Please do not use any lifts or escalators in the event of an emergency. Once outside, you will be directed to the nearest assembly point by the marshals for your safety. Please wait at the assembly point until the venue has been cleared and a marshal deems it safe for you to return to your seats. Thank you for your time and enjoy this event.
Thank you very much to the Durban ICC for that presentation. All right. Good morning, Sanbonani, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the very first, the inaugural eThekwini Property Conference in 2024. In the city, I think so many of us have made home, and a city, of course, where we continue to grow and develop and love as much as we do Durban, eThekwini municipality. This morning, I would like to just acknowledge amongst us the presence of our dignitaries. If I can, thank you very much. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our dignitaries this morning who have joined us, and thank you to them for making time. Amongst them this morning, the Honorable Mayor is with us, Councillor Kawunda. The Deputy Mayor, Ma'am Ms. Mieni, is also with us. The City Manager will be joining us shortly. The heads of the various departments within the municipality, members of the media, are of course our invited guests and speakers who you're going to hear from right throughout the day, and of course you, the delegates. This morning's program promises for your benefit to be action-packed. I think the one thing we can all appreciate, particularly related to property, and related to property in the public domain against a private interest and enterprise interest, is that we all battle sometimes to merge the urgency of business with the policies and regulations that govern some of the activity, whether it's acquisitions and disposals, it's infrastructure, it's bulk planning, or in fact it is the investment potential and ultimately the economic development that can come from this very, very precious asset that we have. Property and land is the one commodity that cannot be replicated. We got what we got. And within the context of that, what we have seen is over time, what we have seen is as our needs and spatial needs in a society, in a developmental society much like ours, is that we need to be responsive to a time called now. And a time called now requires us to begin to really focus on the 5 Ps, as I have called them and named them for the purposes of this conference today. For me, the big priorities today will be for each of us to have walked away understanding the policy environment that a city and a metro like eThekwini works within. With that, what I hope we also go home with is a very clear understanding of what the strategies and the programs in place are and how it is that you and I can then meaningfully participate in bringing these strategies and programs to life, bringing the returns on these programs to fruition, and ultimately contributing to an inclusive but also the vibrant city that eThekwini has such potential to become. We do acknowledge, though, that there are problems. As many countries around the world can attest, and particularly countries with a historical context as deep, as complicated, as mired in emotion, in different ideologies, and mired, I guess, as well in terms of where we're coming from an economic access and an economic disparity and the very wide inequality gaps that yawn, as it were, within our society. It becomes very, very clear that as the world makes progress, as we begin to move forward, that the issues around spatial transformation and spatial justice are issues that we cannot leave behind if it is our intent and it is our purpose to make sure that we develop forward. So, within the context of the problems, I'm asking you here today to say, think about some of the challenges that keep you awake at night in terms of participating, in terms of growing, in terms of developing, as well as really entering the value chain that the property sector represents. And then against those problems, let us look at ways and means in which we can create solutions that are best aligned to the programs and the strategies, or even improve the strategies and the programs that do already exist. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that is the only way you and I will be able to sit again in 2025 and have a second property conference. And at that particular conference, begin to look at the progress we have made, begin to cement the purpose that each of our businesses are founded on, each of our interests are founded on, and the purpose, of course, of using property and land in its most inclusive, but also in its most productive ways and means that are available to us as a whole society. I'm excited today because very rarely in the property sector are so many key stakeholders gathered in one room. And it's critical for the stakeholders to be in one room, seated at the table, and having a meaningful, active, and interactive discussion about those 5 Ps. Because more often than not, what it is that we want to do looks fantastic in the MOIs, on paper and documentation. And I always say South Africa is the most brilliant country in the world. We have a white paper for absolutely everything, a development plans that rival the very best in the world. But the one area that we certainly begin to really fall back and behind on 30 years into democracy is the area, firstly, of knowledge management. Who knows what? Where is it? How much of it is there? And who can assist us to unlock its capabilities and capacity? And the second area we often fall short is moving those white papers, plans, and documentation into reality. So on paper, it's still augmental and almost virtual reality, dependent on where you view it and read it. But this reality is, it needs to transist into implementation, into much needed development, and of course, spaces that us as citizens, because we are also all ultimately private citizens of this country, can enjoy, can work in, and stay productive in, but also spaces in which we can realize the fruition of so many of the economic goals that our businesses and different interests are founded on, but also the economic goals of a country with as much potential as our own. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to an interactive conference. I look forward to a conference where we don't dwell on the theoretical, we don't dwell just on the problems, but we say, how do we move forward as a collective? Because nobody can be left behind when we speak about how best do we use a country's assets. How best do we use the space that has been made available to us? And how best, of course, do we exploit the opportunities that come with it in a way and a means that in the future, our grandchildren will go on to enjoy, and of course, will intensify our efforts, diversify our efforts, and move into their own sustainable future. Ladies and gentlemen, should you wish to share some of your thoughts, to share some of what you're listening to and hearing today, many of you will know eThekwini's digital and social media pages, and I know that this morning we have a live audience that is joining us online as well. You're also more than welcome to share some of those thoughts, to share your questions even. I'll certainly be following the digital conversation and trying, of course, to move it into this reality right here on stage. Just make sure, though, that when you do, please use the hashtag PropCon, PROPCON 24, under the @eThekwiniM handles, both on Twitter, on Facebook, LinkedIn as well. I know that many of you are on that particular program and that particular application as well. And we'll be bringing some of those interesting ideas, some of those complex challenges, and some of your solutions, of course, to the stage. We will have 2 breaks during the course of today's program. And during those breaks, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to use this platform and use this opportunity, not to have tea and coffee with people you do know. Those are your old friends. Make new friends, because it's only in the new friends and the new connections that we make today that new ways of using space and developing this city, developing it in line with each of our individual vision, will actually come to fruition. I'll also encourage you that when we come back from the next break, to sit next to somebody you do not know. And with that, of course, what I hope that we leave here with is also a network that has the same vested interest in property, in infrastructure, and in development. Ladies and gentlemen, the real estate unit of the eThekwini municipality works very quietly but very expeditiously in the background to make sure that these programs as well as projects come to life. But what you'll be excited to know is just some of the new changes, the new very important programs that they have most recently launched. And there are already significant results that will be shared with us as part of this program. I laughed at the team as we were preparing for this conference and said to them, you know, you guys are actually not a service unit only, but you are actually one of the commercially vested departments and units of our metro. And it's important for you to become and come forward at the forefront of investment, as well as how it is that we bring the vision of what each of us are here to pull together to life. So what I certainly hope that we leave here having done is shown the department what it is that our vision is, and of course held hands to make sure that that does in fact become reality through how it is that we transform the look, the feel, the energy of the city. Ladies and gentlemen, just in terms of our emergency exits, those are all pointed at the back. Outside, you will also, if you've got any questions and queries, the team from the real estate division is also based outside. Please keep your lanyards with your names and your accreditation on you at all times as part of this conference, as it will obviously just give you access in and out of this venue and the refreshments venues as well. And at the end of this particular program, the team will also make sure that you have the relevant parking tickets and any additional information that you will need. I will share with you a little bit later in terms of how you can also access some of the information and some of the gems that we will drop as part of today's program. The one thing I didn't do was introduce myself. My name is Lynette Nduli, and I have the absolute privilege today really to be on stage to conduct this conversation. And having been a practitioner in the property industry over the last 18, make it 19 years of my life, I'm really excited by the opportunity to engage my colleagues, peers, but also fellow citizens, because we all are ultimately great believers in the potential of Durban today. So I'll be steering your conversation, keeping us honest as possible in terms of time. But I'm really, really interested in hearing from all of you in terms of how we can bring the 5 Ps I started today with to life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like at this point in time to welcome to the stage, to officially welcome us, our hosts, the City of Durban. And if you can please give a very warm round of applause to the Honourable Mayor, Councillor Kawunda.
Thank you, Lynette. Mpemba. Lapha kwaZulu siyathakazelana. Let me start by expressing my 2 apologies to the conference. The first apology being that I was informed that we'll start at 8, so I was here at 7:45. That is my first apology. My second apology is that I'm receiving the first citizen of the country here at the port at 10 o'clock. So I should be there waiting for him at 9:45. Those are 2 apologies. So when you see me taking leave, I value the conference because I committed as a mayor that will convene this conference when I presented the State of the City address, that this is a very important conference. I wanted wanted to remain here for the duration of the conference. Unfortunately, the protocol dictates that when the president is here, the mayor should be with the president and the premier. Without any further ado, it is a distinct honor for us as eThekwini Municipality to host this conference, the first of its kind in the city that brings together organs of state and finance institutions to find ways of unlocking economic opportunities in the property sector. It is for this reason that I wish to recognize our distinguished guests, the speakers who are lined up to present and make their inputs to this very important conference. I recognized all of you. Held under the theme, Maximizing Public Sector Access to Drive Economic Growth and Transformation in the Property Sector to Enable Meaningful Participation and Unlocking Obstacles that have affected previously disadvantaged individuals, I close quote. That's a theme of this conference. The conference aligns perfectly with the vision of the Freedom Charter that says, I quote, "The people shall share in the country's wealth," and I close quote. The conference is also in pursuance of our radical socio-economic transformation program, which seeks to fundamentally change the structure of our economy to eradicate the triple threat of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We need to tamper with the patterns of ownership so that it represents the demographics of our country, especially in this sector. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this event is to bring together government and its entities to share their property disposal policies and properties that are available for the disposal within the eThekwini Municipality jurisdiction that should drive economic growth with our metro and transformation in the property sector. Funding institutions will also be given an opportunity to share their funding criteria, requirements, financial products related to property development. At the end of this conference, we want to form a strong partnership with all spheres of government, including entities, private sector, property developers, and funding institutions to create economic opportunities and a platform that enables previously disadvantaged individuals to emerge as key players in the property market, thus addressing the inequalities that still exist in our society. We are confident that through this partnership, we'll also be able to address the challenge of derelict and hijacked buildings in the city, because after this conference, we'll go back to our respective institutions and develop clear property disposal policies. As part of our efforts to transform the property market in eThekwini Municipality, we have embarked on a program of using our property portfolio to attract new investments and to enable those who were deliberately excluded from participating meaningfully in this economic sector. Bengithi kuzobe kugcwele ihholo lapha ngoba sihlale sithi umhlaba ubuye, manje angazi ubuya kanjani uhleze ekhaya. Mabamenyiwe abantu kodwa bazokumemeza nje kuphela ubuye umhlaba. Mase kuthiwa ake sizohlala ke siwukameke manje ubuya kanjani umhlaba abasezi. Kodwa bazobe sikhomba mase siphuma la bethi bekuhlangene ngomngane. Kanti invitation ayibizanga abangane, invitation ibize wonke umuntu. Kodwa mase siphuma la kuthi uma ubize impintshi zakhe, nimpintshi zami nonke ke manje. Niyabona nibakhulu kanjani nimpintshi kaMeya. Hey ngoba ayikho into eswelakala kusijaha. Uma ufuna ukujaha ipolitician ujaha nangomengane nje. So but we still have a firm belief that we need to work together and collaborate to deliver on this mandate. This initiative follows the development of proactive land release strategy that was adopted by the Council in 2021. The purpose of this strategy was to change historic way of doing things by always waiting for people to come and apply for land before we commence with the process to assess if that property is required to provide a basic municipal service or any other commercial purpose. That reactive process used to take up to 4 years just to get confirmation that this property is not required by the municipality, and as a result, we had released less than 10 properties from 2010 to 2020. So we've evaluated ourselves as an institution that the pace in which we move in making sure that we identify these properties and we release them for developmental purposes, both commercial and social, so it needs to be expedited. The second part of the proactive land release strategy was to adopt a clear position on giving preference to black people in line the triple PFA when we alienate land or properties owned by the municipality. This is in our view. This, in our view, is a reasonable measure that is facilitating the realization of accessing land on an equitable basis as mandated by Section 25 of 5 and 9(2) of the Constitution to advance persons or categories of persons disadvantaged by unfair discrimination. Kuleli lizwe lobabumkhulu bekuthiwa bawusiphathela umhlaba wethu thina siyowazi kangcono mase singcwatshwa. Shuthi uyokuqala ukwazi umhlaba kahle mase ungasawuboni usungena ngebhokisi kuwona. Now usuhlezi phezu kwakho kumhlaba. Now we are changing that because with the proactive land release strategy we are now able to release properties on quarterly basis. Our process takes up to a maximum period of 12 months from assessment to council approval, and I want us to reduce, Chapelo, this period. 12 months is still too much. For development, people who are seated here are business people. So a year to them is 5 years. So we don't need to take a year within our own processes where we can dictate what needs to happen. So we need to move quicker. I want you, head of our real estate, to reduce this to 6 months, not 12 months. Through this proactive way of doing things, we have managed to release 25 properties in 1 year between 2021 and 2022, and have managed to achieve the following. I want you to listen carefully, because we want to showcase that we have started to do something. We are not here only to dream about doing things. Firstly, 13 awards made to successful bidders. 13 awards made to companies that are 100% owned by black people. 10 awards made to companies that are owned by 100% African-owned companies. 2 awarded to a youth-owned company. 2 properties are located on the beachfront. For the first time in the history of this municipality, we now have a tenant that is 100% African in the beachfront. For the first time, for the first time, so siyamuva-ke manje. So simuva with a high pace because we need to change this. 2 properties are located at the beachfront, as I've already alluded to that. Over 2.2 billion rands is the total investment to be invested by successful bidders. 5,176 jobs to be created during construction. 1,319 permanent jobs to be created after constructions. Over 1.8 billion is the total rental income payable to the municipality over the lease period of all these 10 leases that we spoke about. In addition, we have released 21 properties in November and December 2023, including some of the properties on the beachfront like Elangeni and Maharan, Joe Cools, and the old Funwell site. We anticipate to finalize the procurement process by June 2024. Kuye kwasuka umsindo-ke ngamanye lama properties. Kwathiwa sesigxosha abaselangeni nabasemaharana sabafuna eThekwini, umasipala onjani lo ngayifuni investment. Sasho-ke into silawula MFMA. MFMA dictates that such properties which we own needs to be publicized for general public. So then all of you need to go and express your interest. So akekho umuntu efanele ukuthi ubekelwe intshontsho lakhe eyakubo lento uyoze kuze kubuye nemvani impela kuthiwa nje ayile ibekelwe yena intshontsho lakubo. So akusebenzi ke kanjani. Kona ke naleya lapha eFun World sathukwa ngayo nengasidefendi ngayo. Sithukela imshini esihleze engasasebenzi ephuphile. Kuthiwa sebehambise neFun World nani najoyina kuma social network. Yabona ke lo mayor. Nambona ke lo mayor. Najoyina into engingayazi, ngikhuluma into engingayazi. Sihlalisa umuntu ongene ngo75 lapho ongenzi lutho idolobha akusekho ediki value kwi-tourism. Ngemshini leya lapha. Yayikhona bengasasebenzi. Kuthiwa sibayekeke emhlabeni kamasipala betanase nje. We don't do our business like that. So we are able to take bold decisions. We are not afraid of anyone. When we're supposed to take decisive decisions, we do that. So we are not a government that will be shaken by abantu abas-intimidating ukuthi manje sebefaka lento ayinabala lento. It's about business. It's not about any color. It's about business. So we need to avail opportunities for everyone. So those properties, we anticipate to finalize the procurement of those processes by June 2024, this year. Abanye ke bayazi ke khona babhidanisa ukhetho bathi njobe khuluma kanje umeyenza izinto kanje usenzela ukuthi ngoba uyaphuma ngoMay angiphumi ngoMay. Ngenza kungabe khona umuntu ozoba nenkinga ukuthi manje ngiyaphuma ngoMay, ngiyapi ngoMay. Eyami term iphela ngo2026. So mama uzoqala uintimidate ukuthi benza izinto basekuza ukhetho lethu ukhetho esisebenzayo lo ka2026. Njengamanje sishaya service delivery siyaqhubha. Asina khetho whether khona ukhetho or alokho ukhetho senza umsebenzi wabantu wesizwe. So khona ba excited veso nami uyahamba ngoMay ngiyapi ngoMay. Ngizobe ngila ngoMay. uMay phela next month. Mangenze ukuthi bengacathi uMay ukuthi next month ngizobe ngila. Sebenza nani? Senza yona implementa yona le program e transformation. Siyiqhuba singayincengile siyiqhuba ngempela. Sinyuka sehlika senyuka nayo. So we are here to serve you. One of the projects located on Beachfront that was awarded as part of this strategy was profiled as part of the Black Industrialist Project by the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. And the municipality was commended for its policy position of using its properties to transform and change the ownership patterns within the property sector. Bengithi ngizoshaya ihlombe akanti nomona. Awu umuntu esezwathola iaward nenomona awu. By the end of 2024 we are going to release a total of 100 properties by end of this year. So we are going to make these properties available for you. They are not available for the friends of the mayor. They are not available for anyone. They are available for you as business people. You must seize this opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, some of the organs of states in our midst own properties within our municipal jurisdiction, and we urge them to follow suit and release some of these properties to us or the property sector for redevelopment. Ngicela sibambisane kahle nani lapha ko Transnet no Public Works asibambisane kahle nibuyisele ngapha kumasipala thina mase sibuyisela ngapha kubantu baseThekwini. So that's a cooperation that we are looking for from all of you colleagues. For funding institutions, our request is for them to partner with us in facilitating investment by making funding for potential investors, specifically those who are from previous disadvantaged communities. Sicela nisiyeke bakwethu ukusijaja ama-financial institutions ngebala lethu. Asithi masifika nje ungabuki risk, awubuki potential. Manje lento uthi masingena nje ema-ofisini enu niqala ngebala nje i-risk. asiyona risk nathi we want to unleash this potential of ours so that we can develop this country. We want to make a meaningful contribution. So if you still use the old system of looking at us and you deny us opportunities, as much as see risk, but we are potential investors. So don't look at us as risk, look at us as potential investors. These are investors seated here and potential investors. So that is our appeal. Mina njengomfana waseNanda nje ngicela kungabukwa ngokuthi ngivela ngasezakhiweni nanithi semjondolo oqala. Ngingabukwa ngaleyo ndlela mase ngiqala ngingakangeni ibala ngiqale ngibuye ukuthi ngivele emjondolo mase kuthiwa ibala lakhe linjani. So ngicela ukubukwa njengomuntu nje oyi-potential investor. Khona ngivele eNanda lekwaDube la kuvela khona umongameli wokuqala ka-African National Congress uDr. J.L. Dube. So we wish to collaborate with you so that we can deliver to these targeted groups. They are ready, they are available, they just need your support. Hence, in our own ESD fund, we'll also be putting an element of property in that fund that will be launching so that we also support you. We capitalize your projects as you begin with the journey. As a city, we do grant step in rights as part of our agreement conditions to make sure that their interests as funding institutions are protected. Ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed excited to host this conference, and we are confident that it will unlock new investments, opportunities, and create an inclusive property sector in eThekwini municipality. We are looking forward to fruitful engagements that will take this sector forward. I'm leaving you on the capable hands of my Deputy Mayor, Councillor Mieni. She's here, she's going to remain. So when the mayor is with the president, but the mayor is also here through Deputy Mayor to ensure that this conference moves smoothly. We wish you everything of the best. Let us continue to fight for our right. Land is our right, it's not a privilege. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Mayor of eThekwini Municipality, Councillor Kaunda. He has expressed his apologies and we wish him well with the rest of his day. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's carry on. I think, you know, it's interesting when, of course, we speak about the issues related to land reform. 2016 right through 2018, this was certainly one of the huge rallying calls of, you know, particularly our socio-economic, but also our political economy at that point in time, as we neared the 2019 election. Many of you will remember and recall, you know, both the furor, but also the interest in the constitutional changes that were required of Section 25. How many of you, by the way, participated in the public comment process related to Section 25 of the Constitution that was put out at that time? Put your hands up high. I want to see my active citizens. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3. And I want us to remember participation as one of our 5 Ps. Many of us today are going to sit back and hear a lot about policy and the regulations, right? And within policy and regulation, we also need to understand that the environment that we work in is not one that is just punitive and one that is governance and scorecard driven. But policy and regulation are also always open to improvement, are always open to inclusive ideas and change. But also make sure that you and I, as citizens of this country, as business people, as public sector participants, stakeholders such as the financial institutions, can fairly play the game. I noted as I opened earlier on that one of the greatest challenges we have as a country is that it's all there on paper, but managing that knowledge and cultivating the necessary ideas, as well as cultivating a culture in participating in the processes of a democratic and developmental state, are somewhat lacking. And if we fail to participate, we also then fail to achieve our future goals in relation to economic development, as well as the triple bottom lines and the sustainability goals that so many of our organizations, our governments, as well as institutions themselves have committed themselves to. I remember in 2018, particularly when this conversation was at its very peak, that I refused to engage in any conversations with anyone who had not read the 15 acts of government that had been passed through governments and parliaments in our country from 1848. We all often refer to the 1913 Land Act, but before the Land Act, its predecessor was the the Grey Act, right? And the Grey Act unlocked 15 different separate acts and laws that you and I, in some way or the other, today, in 2024, are working within the improvements, the abolishments, the mitigations, the changes, and even still in certain instances, the existence of the clauses that determined how we use space and land, both in the public and in the private domain. And therefore, it becomes critically important, ladies and gentlemen, that as we begin to say, what does progress look like? What does participation look like? Where is the nub and the root of some of the problems and the challenges that we currently face in building for a world in the future? It becomes critically important for us to look back at the past, not dwell on it, look back at the past and find ways in which we ideate around some of those obstacles. Find ways in which we sit together and we exchange ideas about how it is that we are going to drive change and with change development forward, whilst of course ensuring that there is spatial transformation, which is much needed, whether it's in residential housing, in public assets that serve our different communities, or in some of the fun stuff. You know, the mayor up here has talked about Fun World, for instance, and tourism assets and the like, right? So it becomes incredibly important for us to keep going back to that environment, because you and I, I've lost my, thank you, because you and I are actually allowed, by virtue of being citizens of a democratic state and nation, to have a say, to make the change, and to make changes that, more importantly, allow us to play the game. So, I really, really, really encourage each of us today that as we hear them, not just to dwell on, oh, there we go again, the rhetoric of land reform, oh, there we go again, the slogans around it, but to really look at those frameworks and look at how it is that they continue to affect us today, but also begin to look at the responsibility that that puts on each of us. The responsibility to come up then with new ideas, the responsibility to participate in processes that bring about that change, and the responsibility to ensure that we are a part of a generation that leaves sustainable settlements, sustainable spaces, and sustainable countries and economies through the actions that everybody seated at this table is able to make. So I want each of us just to think about that, not just dwell, but also to think about the responsibility and that the opportunity actually exists for us to influence that change in our respective spaces. Now, I did say that today we are all about action. eThekwini desperately needs new cranes in the sky. I think at this point in time, we've probably only got 2 or 3 cranes in the sky, which is unheard of globally if we're speaking about a growing, vibrant metropolitan region. Yes, we're coming out of a pandemic. Yes, we're coming out of a downswing in our economies, various types of recessions. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think we all acknowledge that the economies of our various nations, as well as the fortunes of particularly the built environment, over the last 5 to 10 years have been quite checkered and choppy waters to navigate. With that said, the only way we are going to navigate out is through. And with that, it becomes important for us to not only set the scene, understand the horizon and the skyline that we're trying to build on, but also understand where it is that we all fit in, to ensuring that there are more cranes in the sky, to ensuring that we use that which is currently unused to its very best potential, that is vacant, that could be a fresh and a new idea, and repurpose certain of these assets to achieve some of the goals that so many of us are here today to look at. So, I'd like to welcome to the stage the Deputy City Mayor for Economic Development, Lihle Phewa, to give us a few thoughts in terms of, as he looks at the whole environment at eThekwini and all the different divisions that they interact with as economic development, where it is that they will move the needle and where it is that he requires us as participants in the property sector to come in and play our part. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lihle Phewa.
Program Director, Lynette and Tuli, His Worship the Mayor or Councillor Kaunda, the Deputy Mayor or Councillor Mieni, the Head of Real Estate and the organizer of this event, other heads in attendance. I've seen the Head of Revenue Management, the Chief Investment Officer of the municipality, representatives of national and provincial government, as well as of organs of state, financial and funding institutions, property sector professionals present, officials present, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Sanbonan. Sanbonan. Goeiemorgen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lihle Phewa. I am the Deputy City Manager responsible for economic development and planning in the city. I stand here on behalf of the City Manager, just to reflect on the purpose for this conference. So if I say anything that you don't want to hear, please do know it wasn't me. Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather for eThekwini's inaugural property conference, which has been meticulously organized by our Head of Real Estate Unit. This event signifies the commencement of a pivotal dialogue that is focused on leveraging public sector assets to propel economic growth and catalyze transformation within the property sector. The conference aims to delve into government disposal policies and plans providing comprehensive insights into financial information and property funding services and products, with a particular emphasis on commercial properties, which often require substantial capital investment. Our discussions will revolve around maximizing public sector assets to drive economic growth and foster transformation within the property sector. This includes facilitating meaningful participation and overcoming obstacles that have historically impeded the advancement of previously disadvantaged individuals. Our municipality remains steadfast in its commitment to nurturing an environment that not only attracts investment, but also spurs spatial and economic transformation. We recognize the significance of harnessing our resources to create opportunities for all stakeholders, and thereby fostering inclusive growth and addressing long-standing disparities within the property sector. Through the Office of the City Manager, we are excited to be spearheading one of our ambitious efforts to revitalize and transform the inner city, positioning Durban as a leading hub for tourism, investment, and livability in Africa. Recognizing the importance of this area, that is the inner city, we have embarked on a comprehensive regeneration strategy aimed at renewing, restoring, and growing the inner city. With its high accessibility via private and public transport networks, valuable property assets, and pivotal role in generating economic value, our municipality cannot afford to let this area degenerate any further. Moreover, the regeneration of the inner city presents significant opportunities for spatial restructuring, including increased residential options and job creation. By implementing effective management strategies, we aim to accommodate a larger portion of the metropolitan population and create more job opportunities in close proximity to homes and recreational facilities. One of the key pillars of the regeneration strategy is tackling the issue of problem buildings. These structures, often neglected and poorly maintained, pose significant challenges to public health, safety, and the overall urban environment. And since 2019, the city has achieved significant milestones in its efforts to address building-related challenges. Notable accomplishments in this regard include, but not limited to, the refurbishment of about 22 buildings, the demolition of about 9 unsightly buildings, and targeted interventions in about 5 buildings to resolve dangerous situations. Additionally, about 13 hijacked buildings have been returned to their rightful owners through the city's efforts, and administrators have also been appointed for about 6 buildings to make sure that there is accountability for those properties. The release of council-owned stock to the market, the eviction procedures, and facilitation of incentives have also been key initiatives. Furthermore, the city has identified 3 underutilized buildings for intervention in the current financial year, with measures currently underway to address their status. Also key to our strategy are catalytic projects, such as the Marina development, the Centrum development across the road, and the Durban Film City. These projects, with their substantial investment values and socio-economic impacts, are poised to transform the face of our city and attracting investor interest and driving economic growth. For an example, the Durban Film City project, with its estimated investment value of over 7.5 billion, promises to catapult the region's film industry to new heights, creating thousands of jobs and stimulating tourism and leisure activities. Similarly, the Marina development, undertaken in partnership with Transnet and other stakeholders, aims to revitalize the waterfront into a world-class tourist destination and further enhancing the Durban's appeal on the global stage. As we reflect on our past successes, including the current upgrade of the Point Precinct and the renewal of the Rivertown area, who are energized to tackle the challenges that lie ahead. And through increased enforcement, strengthened partnerships with key stakeholders, and proactive engagement with the community, we are confident in our ability to overcome these challenges and realize our vision of a vibrant and prosperous city. The eThekwini municipality is driving forward with ambitious plans for large-scale spatial transformation projects in collaboration with the private sector, aiming to spur economic growth and attract investment to the region. And these catalytic projects, typically exceeding 500 million in investment value, play a pivotal role in job creation and overall economic development. With several initiatives already underway, the municipality anticipates significant contributions to its right space, alongside the transformation of local spatial landscapes and the creation of numerous employment and business opportunities. And known for their profound socio-economic impact, these projects are strategically located along key national routes and in previously disadvantaged township areas. So fast-tracking their implementation aligns with the national government's focus on infrastructure and investment development, particularly in the wake of the economic challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Overall, these catalytic projects underscore the municipality's dedication to economic spatial transformation and investment attraction. By leveraging strategic partnerships and prioritizing sustainable development, eThekwini is poised for significant economic growth and regional impact, aligning with national objectives for infrastructure and investment development. And throughout this conference, ladies and gentlemen, our deliberations will revolve around critical topics aligned with our objectives, and these include property disposal policies, funding requirements, and investment opportunities. Our aim is to establish a platform for dialogue that not only informs, but also fosters collaboration among organs of state, the private sector, and the financial institutions. And by the conclusion of our discussions, we anticipate gaining valuable insights into the expectations of all stakeholders involved. Our efforts encompass a comprehensive approach focusing on infrastructure development, regulatory reforms, and the creation of supportive policies aimed at incentivizing investment. And by enhancing infrastructure, strengthening regulatory processes, and offering attractive incentives, we aim to cultivate an environment where business can thrive and flourish. Moreover, our commitment to spatial and economic transformation is deeply ingrained in our city's policies and initiatives, and we are dedicated to ensuring that development is not only sustainable, but also inclusive, addressing historical inequalities and fostering equitable growth across all sectors of society. I am proud to affirm, therefore, that the City of Durban's efforts closely align with the themes and objectives of this gathering. Our focus on attracting investment and driving spatial and economic transformation directly supports the outcomes sought by this conference. We recognize the importance of collaboration and knowledge sharing in achieving these goals. And we eagerly anticipate fruitful discussions and partnerships that will propel our city towards a brighter, more prosperous future. In conclusion, I extend my sincere gratitude to all delegates for their participation and engagement in this conference. And together, let us commit to building a city that not only serves as a beacon of investment, but also stands as a model of inclusive and sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Pewa. Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard in that presentation, the framework is there, right? But it does require our participation. It does require, our activity. Who are the property owners in the city that allow these buildings to degenerate to that state? If those property owners have problems and challenges related to risk, related to, shall I call it, reappropriated responsibility of ownership, of those properties? Who are they speaking to get the assistance and help to make sure that they're able to take back those buildings and put them in a livable state? The other big thing that we also need to understand is who are all of these new people in a city who are not housed, who are looking for places to work, who are looking for space to live, create, build lives. Who are they? And where is it that they would rather be? And where is it that they hope to be? Because ideally also, ladies and gentlemen, in building an inclusive society, in building equitable human settlements, business hubs and nodes, we should also be looking at where is it that we're going? Through spaces, through buildings, are we creating and articulating the vision of the ultimate customer that each of us in the property sector is here to serve? The ultimate customer being the citizen who has so many different needs to occupy space. Do we know who they are? What is it that they want? Or are we only building ego projects, white elephants, and monuments to the greatness of our architectural design, and monuments to our ability to access capital, monuments to our own personal goals and dreams, where the reality of the beast is, ladies and gentlemen, irrespective of whether you live in a freehold, a sectional title, irrespective of whether you have your own office block and building or work in one, a high-rise building, we have to share space. We have to share space. There are no negotiations about it. So who are we creating space for? Why? And are we able to articulate a vision? Are we able to articulate space that is responsive, again, to a time called now? Because it's quite clear that as you listen to Mr. Pewa's presentation, that we're not here to do and draw up a Vision 2030. It's terrifying to think that Vision 2030 is only 6 years away. 6 years on a development project is nothing. In fact, if you hope to develop something by 2030 of the scale, based on the type of demand that we have as a country right now for all kinds of space, you should have gotten started at least yesterday. We're already a day late. But because of the urgency, because of the demand, we need to think about a time called now. And a time called now also draws us to the awareness that there are challenges and problems in the space. But these are not caused by the bricks and the mortar. These are not caused by the access or the availability of funding. Our speakers are going to tell you they've got money. If there's one country in the world that has money, it's this country that we live in. I can guarantee you that. There is money. But are we actually addressing the correct problems? The correct root causes? Are we supplying to the right markets? Prioritizing the urgencies that make or break a society? And those are just some of the pressing questions that as you navigate your way through the policy and the programs today, that is whether you're a developer, you're an occupier, you're a service provider, you provide goods in this particular value chain, because wow, if there's one thing that's so wide, but so deeply also unexplored, is the value chain of property. That you need to start thinking about very, very closely. We're not building for our egos, we're not building for our own personal vision, but we're ultimately building the vision and the future state of countries here, ladies and gentlemen. If you think of Dubai, I'm going to make examples, unfortunately. Think of Dubai, think of Singapore, think of the Miamis of the world. Think about all the cities in the world that have catapulted themselves into the future cities of the world. The Emirates, Dubai, Doha, Qatar, and the like, just 30 years ago, were quite literally deserts. They were airports. They just had airports and in the desert. But the articulation of a vision where we have shared space and we use local talent, ideas, and participation to grow ourselves to global status comes from all of us deciding how best we're going to share and participate in space. So please be guided by those principles as part of today's conversation. I'm hoping that the laptop has been set up. Tech team, can I please have a pointer, please, for my next presentation? Thank you very much. And with that, okay, I think I'm going to actually skip to the next speaker whilst we just prepare the clicker. There's a bit of a problem with in relation to that. And if I can please ask our head for human settlements, Smangile, to please come to the podium and just share with us their programs, what they have in their specific pipeline as human settlements, as well as certain of the spaces in which human settlements are truly changing the landscape of the city, how human settlements will define how business will move, operate, and develop around those spaces, how human settlements is such an integral, please come forward, Smangile, and set yourself up because and I'll keep introducing you until you make your way all the way onto the stage. How human settlements is also the repository, ladies and gentlemen, right now, of some of the information I have just alluded to. Who are these people? Where does this demand come from? What do they need now? Where do they want to be in the future? And how is it that they will go on to choose to occupy space? So I hope for what you will take from Smangile's presentation today is just a sense and a nub of who is in eThekwini, and marry that with your ambition and what it is that you're building, and hopefully you will find alignment. But if you find misalignment, start thinking about where it is that you can make the relevant changes and where it is that you can better partner in ensuring that the people we rely on to make a city work are able to be housed safely, are able to be housed in proximate distance to the services, the goods many of you will go on to offer them, and are also able to reach productive environments that will influence whether our country and our city grows or not. Over to you, ma'am. My apologies, my dear. The tech desk is just going to connect the presentation. Maybe for the purposes of right now, I'm just going to walk around the room. Can I have a roving mic, please? Or do I have somebody in the audience with one? And I'm going to walk around the audience because the reason I don't stand at the podium, over and above the fact that I'm the same size as the podium, is because I love this. I love the ability to talk to people and just understand who I am with in the room. All right. So, who in the room here today has been in the property industry for longer than 20 years? Just put your hand up. More than 20 years. Good morning to you. Oops, is it on? All right. Alison Skuman from AMS. 20 years in the property industry. For you, having seen so much of the transition of the country, 20 out of 30 years, why do you stay in the property industry? And what is the vision that you have as a citizen and as a business person for the city of Durban?
So I am a conveyancer. So my purpose is to put people in their homes. I specialize in residential property conveyancing mostly. So for me, it's always such an amazing achievement, especially when I deal with first-time home buyers that have struggled some 10, 15 years to have their first home that they can truly put down roots, build their families. So for me, it's a very important function in the city, and it's just wonderful when I hear the struggles that these individuals may have been through in order to save the money to acquire that home. So for me, it's about putting people in homes, building a life, and being part of that journey. It is just something extraordinary. So I am the service provider. I'm the service providers at the end of the day. My vision is to see more people being able to have that feeling of having their first home. And I do think that all businesses need to do more to achieve and help those people that find it very hard. The costs are very high to acquire your first property. The interest rates sometimes make or break whether these individuals are able to acquire that home. And there is nothing more fulfilling than having your own little piece of the city to put down roots.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Alison. Ladies and gentlemen,